RealAg Live. And welcome to RealAg Live, everybody. I'm your host, Shaun Haney. Hey, thanks a lot for tuning in today for today's live broadcast. Of course, like I said, we are live, so what we love is your participation. If you have any questions or comments for today's guest, you can do that by entering your comment or question in the box, whether you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. Hey, let's get to it here right now. Let's bring in today's guest. It is Jordon Underhill of the Canadian Dairy Expo. Hey, Jordon, how are you?
Hey, great to join you virtually here.
Absolutely. So this week, the Canadian Dairy Expo is taking place. Last year, it took a hiatus, of course, because of COVID-19. This year, there is a virtual version. It started today. How did today go, Jordon?
Good. It's a little different running the show from our office here in Guelph and not being down in Stratford hands-on and shaking hands and meeting people for sure is a big difference for us. We're people, we love people. So yeah, that's a little bit different, but no, it's been a great learning experience today. We've had lots of producers logged on and companies interacting, and I'm pretty excited about what the final outcomes will be.
Yeah, you're a little bit of a different situation. The fact that, Canadian Dairy, it's your business, right? You started it, you created it, you've been molding it and trying to grow it every single year for the past, 4 or 5 years?
So actually, it's operated for 7 years
We're
now.
on 7 already.
Hard to believe, but
That
this
is
is this is
crazy.
this is year 8,
That's
the virtual
amazing.
year. Yeah.
So it's your business. So this isn't being run by an ag board, or the facility owns the event as well. What has the last year been like for you trying to get through this period where you didn't even have a show last year?
Yeah. It's been challenging from our standpoint. There's no question about it. It's a family business that we operate here, a small family business, and you have an event that has a big impact on the Canadian dairy industry. So you have to figure out how to work through these challenges and keep the show going because it's good for the industry. And so yeah, you look at the path forward. We're also producers ourselves, running a beef operation here outside of Guelph. So it does help relate to what's happening on the farm as well. But I think in general, it's been tough for the trade show industry, but luckily, agriculture itself has carried on. And so it should as a frontline industry. And the agricultural companies, for the most part, haven't missed a beat. Still supplying feed and technologies and education in whatever way they can to Canadian dairy producers.
Absolutely. So for this year's show, like I said, you're doing it virtually. Did you set up an agenda of speakers? How did you make it happen in the virtual world?
Yeah, it took a bit of time for me specifically, as the founder and the creator of the show, with my wife Donna, to figure out how we take this show that was all about connecting and seeing and touching and feeling live, and make it virtual and make it exciting and interactive. And to be honest, the companies have really stepped up, to make that. To make the virtual show interactive, both live chat and also with live demonstrations happening, live cow displays. So the companies involved in the Dairy Expo have really embraced the concept for the most part, and help make the show come alive virtually. But it hasn't come without its challenges. We've been a bit lucky that we've been able to sit back and see what's been done by other companies, because we are kind of paving some new ground here. And so we've been able to kind of pick and choose what we liked and what we thought could be improved by what's been done. And yeah, you just put your best foot forward and try to create the most interactive and educational virtual experience you can.
Who'd you have for speakers?
So we had to go with two proven commodities that we've had at the show before, that we know draw producers. Because of course, we're into April, we're starting to get busy around the farm. So you got to figure out what's that carrot to get these producers that are busy logged on. And so we brought back two speakers that are proven commodities in terms of drawing a crowd at the show. Both Dr. Pohl from
Uh,
more of a positive mental health, youth development, mentorship standpoint, and then Yope from Cow Signals in Europe to hit the more education practical side. Those two guys have been famous for the Dairy Expo, so we brought them both back. So they both speak twice a day at the show live, and they're answering questions and talking directly to Canadian dairy producers.
You did pull out the heavy hitters. You didn't pull any
Yeah,
punches there. You like who are the top two guys we've ever had before, and
yeah,
you got them back. I remember I've heard both of them at the Dairy Expo before and do a fantastic job. Listening to
yeah,
Yope from Cow Signals, he is so cool. He has just a
yeah,
great message in terms of animal husbandry and very, very cool stuff for sure.
yep. Good delivery.
Okay, so as you look ahead, and actually before we do that, so what's the status of the Poultry Expo that you were going to put on? Where's that at?
So everything, of course, in business is about timing, and launching a new show under these circumstances is not ideal for sure. So at this point, the Poultry Expo is on hold. We'll look at it for potentially the fall of this year, but most likely we're looking at the fall of 2022, and just wait till things are cleared up and somewhat back to normal before we launch that project.
Okay, in terms of the future, what in terms of these virtual conferences we've been trying to use to get through this time period, are there pieces of the virtual conferences you think will stay once we get across the finish line on COVID? How do you see that all piecing together?
Yeah, 100%. And that's actually kind of the turning point for me with virtual, was to think about the future and how we could utilize what we learn in 2021 and carry it forward. So we've had lots of contact and communication with our steering committee. So we have a great steering committee made up of industry and producers and veterinarians and marketers. And so we lean on them heavily for advice on the future. And there's no question the virtual component will stay and be a bolt on to the live show once we go back live again. And so that's what's exciting for me. What we learned in 2021 will stay as a bolt on, and just cast a bigger net for the Canadian Dairy Expo brand in the future. Since we launched the show back in 2013, there was some concern about doing anything live streamed, whether that's the classroom or the trade show itself, in that it may affect the physical attendance of the show. And what we've learned over the years is that's not the case. There are producers that are even 10 minutes from the site in Stratford where the show takes place, where the entire dairy farm family cannot leave the operation at the same time. So sometimes they're splitting up days, and sometimes even splitting up years. So we have an opportunity to virtually provide content to those producers that can't physically leave the farm, and also that may be of a distance in Quebec or BC or even outside of the country. So I think in the future you'll see a full hybrid show from the Dairy Expo once we can go live again, where you'll have physical trade show displays, producers attending, but then there'll be somebody, a company rep from each company on a computer managing the virtual experience as well. So it becomes value added for the companies that are participating in terms of casting that bigger net.
So have you had it set up where sponsors have a booth and people, patrons, people taking in the virtual show can connect with them through the virtual experience, or how do you do that?
Yeah, definitely. So we wanted the virtual show to look and feel as much as possible like the live show. So even when you log on, you'll see it's a Google Zoom down to Stratford, and then a few of us doing a welcome to keep it personable, and you can actually travel the different trade show halls just like you would if you attended the show live. Connect with companies, see their displays set up. They have videos uploaded. Sometimes they're doing speaker forums from their own exhibit spaces, and then you can live chat right there on the spot with each company. So it's pretty cool technology.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that once we get to over the finish line here and get back to whatever normal looks like, there's going
Yeah,
like just like we've seen in the economy, there's a pent up demand for stuff. People want to do things like I can't wait to go to a baseball game at Rogers Center and watch the Blue Jays play. As an
yeah,
example, there is going to be pent up demand for people to go to a conference and just talk to people from
Yeah.
around agriculture. Right? Do you see that?
Oh, definitely. I think that once we come back, we'll be stronger than ever. We just gotta, survive through this period, and there's no question that, especially at the producer level, there's an appetite to get back together and connect. And you already hear about some shop gatherings happening, and there's been some dairy cattle sales happen with really good attendance, and I mean, producers are being responsible and
Yeah.
socially responsible, and yeah, I think that demand will be there once we can go back live.
Yeah. As you're talking to producers right now in the dairy industry, what's your sort of evaluation, or what do you pick up in terms of the overall health of the industry right now? How are producers sitting?
So the health of the industry is exceptional, especially when you look at the Canadian dairy industry from a global perspective. You have a profitable industry. Everybody, of course, wishes that whatever industry they operate in was more profitable, but at least they're operating in the black. Barns are still being built, robots are still going in, cows are getting fed. So the health of the industry is quite strong. For producers, for any farmer, there already is some isolation. So not a lot has really changed in that way for them at the producer level. And so sometimes it's difficult for them to get their heads around why we can't go live, because I think at the producer level, they're ready to go.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a fatigue happening with COVID right now, and we just gotta stay patient for a bit longer and get the environment healthy again.
Question here from Kara watching on Facebook. Do you think the pent up demand will fade, like the grass is always greener on the other side, and a hybrid model may thrive more into the future?
Well, we've already made the decision that going forward will be hybrid. So I'm not sure about other events, but we've already made the decision that when we can go live again, hopefully in 2022, that it'll be a hybrid concept. So the physical show will look very much the same, but the virtual aspect will be the new bolt on.
Yeah, it'd be great to do a virtual on location, a RealAg radio from the
Yeah,
2022 version of the Canadian Dairy Expo for sure.
yeah.
One of the features of the dairy industry that has always like really amazed me is just the technology side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And a show like yourselves is a great way to showcase some of that. What are some of the up and coming technologies that you've been talking to people that have booths in your show about? What are they bringing to the market that is super cool, catching your attention?
Yeah, and that's what makes a dairy event exciting, is that the technology keeps up on an annual basis. So it's not like you have to wait 3 years for something new to come out. There's something new every year, and so that's exciting. And I think that before I get to specifics about technology, I think that that's one advantage that we have with the dairy expo being virtual, is that you already have a very youthful audience. We know that half of the attendance that comes to the show is under the age of 35. And these guys are operating robots and robotic technology from mobile devices, and quite savvy at that. So I think that that's one of our advantages, and also the focus of the event, that it's a very focused event and not broad based. And so that's helped us. But some of the technologies that we've seen come out just in this past year is the robotics category. Of course, continues to grow and thrive. Whether that's it's gone well beyond milking cows to nutrient management, to individual batch feeding cows, to automated calf feeders. That category continues to grow and has now become very much mainstream. And the knowledge base that the producer needs to operate that technology it's quite sophisticated technology. So you really have a new style of producer, and we hear that even from the genetic and feed companies now, that
Mm-hmm.
they're very numbers based. They still love relationships, of course, that will never change in agriculture, but they're numbers driven. They want to see the data, and they want to see it not on a piece of paper but on an iPad. So I think the industry has had to kind of catch up to the education level of the producers, and we struggle to find people that can go on farm and operate at the same intelligence level as these producers. So that's a good thing. That's a great thing for the industry, and you see companies pulling people from within ag and even looking outside of agriculture. And I think there's a really exciting conversion happening.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when we talk about the robotic side of some of these operations, we focus on the output. So it's the feed pusher, the milking, some of the things you talked about. But it's the part that doesn't get talked about a lot is the data component that robot is providing the producer. The
Yeah,
producer knows more about their cows now than they ever have. And it's not
yeah,
just like that sort of like intuition gut feel about, which cows are producing more, what the issues are, opportunities, but it's the data now that's being
yeah.
provided by that robot that really puts a lot of opportunity to make improvements in these operations.
Well, yeah, it does, and it's not just the data collected by the robots, but it's the genomic side on the genetic side. And I think what it's done is it's really made agriculture attractive to youth that we would have before lost to another industry that were into technology or robotics. And now the opportunity is right here in ag. So I really feel like we're keeping our best youth on the dairy operation, where in the past we've lost them in previous generations in some cases, and I think what that's going to do for the industry over the next number of decades is going to be really exciting. I think that we'll be able to compete with the best of any industry.
And of course, from a size component, if you compare Canadian dairy versus, say, the U.S. dairy system, obviously there's a different scale involved there. But when you talk to
Yeah.
the manufacturers, all these different technologies, they must view the Canadian market with there's really an opportunity here to do some business because Canadian dairy producers really are on the forefront of adopting technology.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. Even the change from when we started the show till now. When we started the show, we started traveling to other international trade shows, whether that be, the Tulare World Ag Expo or Eurotier, and talking to international companies about the Canadian market. That was always the first response was, well, isn't that a very small market? And through education, not just by ourselves, but different government organizations and industry, that's really changed that conversation now to, yeah, it's smaller, but it's sustainable and it's profitable. And I think that's a really important word, profitable. Like,
Yeah.
we shouldn't hide behind that. That's a great thing that the industry is profitable. It makes it sustainable and allows us to keep again multiple generations on a dairy operation. So I think the future is bright, and we need to protect our supply management system. We've seen other countries lose that and now want to have it back, and it's very difficult to get it back. Um, so yeah, I think that there's so many positives happening, and it takes at the end of the day, it kind of starts and stops with people. And if we can keep the best people on the dairy operation, then it's all for the better.
Has there been much collaboration behind the scenes? You have a show, and have you talked to other shows across Canada, or maybe like the World Dairy Expo or Eurotier, some of those shows, in terms of how they've kind of gotten through this period of time? Has there been much collaboration?
Yeah, we always try to keep an open door, and I think most shows do. We're all in this together, and we're going after different markets and operating at different times of the year. And so probably who we um, coordinate the most with would be Eurotier and World Dairy Expo, kind of from an international standpoint,
Yeah.
and then with Eurotier, and then World Dairy Expo from a market segment standpoint. But they're having the same challenges that we are. Especially when you talk Eurotier on a much bigger scale with over 100 events operating around the world. But it helps to talk and find out what they're doing and find out what's worked and what hasn't, and help each other. And I think that that's one thing that will come out of this um, this last year that we've gone through, is that people are extending the hand and helping each other, which I think gets lost in the media and not covered, which is unfortunate. But there's a lot of positive stories out there, especially at the farm level and the industry level, about companies helping each other and collaborating, and farmers helping each other. And I think that that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Now, day one of the Dairy Expo was today. Day two is
Yeah.
tomorrow. If are some of the sessions going to be on demand afterwards, or I guess can people still attend tomorrow if they want to?
Yeah, so same operating time periods as a live show. So it's 9 to 4 tomorrow as well, but totally new content. So the speaker content is totally unique, and some of the companies that are doing demonstrations and also their own seminars will have unique topics tomorrow. So the idea was to, provide content for 2 days and not just one day. If guys want to attend for both days.
Awesome stuff. And what's the website?
So www.dairyexpo.ca. So dairyexpo.ca. Go on there. It's free registration. And then there was an opportunity to make a donation to 4-H dairy clubs. And we're overwhelmed by the amount of donations from both industry and producers to 4-H dairy clubs. And we're going to disseminate that across Canada. So yeah, just trying to build positives from challenges.
Absolutely. We've been talking to Jordon Underhill of Canadian Dairy XPO. Hey, Jordon, thanks so much. Good luck with day 2 of the meeting.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate you having me.
Awesome stuff. Hey, I want to encourage everybody today to check out RealAg Radio on Rural Radio 147. We're going to have a great conversation with Joe Glauber. He is former USDA chief economist as well. He is speaking this week at a meeting that's happening virtually on climate and trade policy. You're not going to want to miss that. 4:30 Eastern on Rural Radio 147. Everybody have yourselves a great day. Thank you so much for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Live.